Hello everyone, my name is Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. And if you're new here, welcome for the first time. And tonight, do you like it darker? A review and a rating of the stories, because I certainly do. Stay tuned. Okay, so first question is this book dark enough? Is it comparable to, let's say, Pet Sematary or Night Shift or Skeleton Crew? In terms of darkness, in terms of horror? Probably not. However, I still absolutely love this collection. And even though Stephen King is getting old, he writes about different kinds of things like life and death and mortality. He writes with a maturity. He remains an absolutely masterful storyteller. And yeah, there is darkness in these pages. There are some themes and there's a little bit of the supernatural. And I loved all these stories. Yeah, I said it. Pretty much all these stories. Some better than others. But it's such great characters. It's just so rich in terms of themes, in terms of story, and yeah, it's such a variety of stuff that happens in these pages, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars because some are better than others, some shine brighter than others, but it is still a highly recommended collection, and I think you should do yourselves a favour if you haven't read it already and go for it. Yeah. Okay, in this video I'm going to rank the stories in the volume. You like it darker, from my least favourite to favourite. Now, a very rare thing happened when I was reading this book is that I didn't dislike any of the stories. All of them are readable, all of them are entertaining, and I enjoyed them. So even ranked number 12, which I'm going to talk about, I had something to say and something of interest, which is kind of when I read a compilation, that doesn't often happen. So just bear in mind that I enjoyed these stories. They probably move from kind of 3 stars, 4 stars, and maybe even at like number 5 or 6 up to 5 stars. Some excellent stories here. Some of the best that Stephen King has ever written. And also bear in mind that this is my opinion. Not all of you will agree with my choices, and that is okay. Chat to me down in the dark spaces below. But be respectful. We're all different. And yeah, my favourite story is going to be kind of a surprise to some, but it's my favourite, and that's okay. So yeah, just be respectful, as you always are. Okay, in 12th place we have The Red Screen. Now this is about a man who is being questioned about the brutal murder of his wife, and his reasons are batshit crazy. And this, yeah, it's a very short story. And yeah, I just expected a lot more from it in the end. It kind of brings up kind of conspiracy theories and makes me think a little bit about the invasion of the body snatchers. And I liked it, but yeah, the ending was just what happened. So yeah, didn't have much of an impact on me, but it's still readable. Okay, next up we have Willie the Weirdo. Also kind of a very weird tale, a strange tale, kind of about a twisted relationship between a young boy and his grandfather, and they're both kind of messed up in the head. The boy likes dead things and hearing, insects, and yeah, I'm not going to go there. And the grandfather tells him weird stories about the war. They're both a little bit batshit crazy, in my opinion. And yeah, it's got a bit of a twist at the end, kind of interesting. It reminds me of a story in, I think it's Night Shift or Skeleton Crew. Let me know in the comments below. But a story called Grandma, which in my opinion was a hell of a lot better. This one doesn't leave a lasting impression, but it is still fun, and I enjoyed it. Okay, next up we have Laurie in 10th position. This is probably the most heartfelt, gentle story of the whole lot. Although there is some horror in there, believe me. But for the majority of the story, yeah, you got this lonely man, grieving man, kind of depressed, who's living alone. And his sister gives him a puppy, because she thinks that'll pull him out of his depression. Now at first this guy does not want the puppy. He kind of hates the idea, pooping all over his place. But slowly they grow a little bit of a bond. And I love dogs. I've got my Layla, so this kind of pulled at my heartstrings a bit. But yeah, there's not a hell of a lot more to the story than that. There is sort of horror at the end, which was cool. And yeah, I just enjoyed it. It was kind of heartfelt, kind of warm. It made me feel a bit fuzzy, but not really that horrifying. That is Laurie. Okay, the 9th story is Finn. I see this is not getting a lot of love. I kind of understand. For me it was the ending. It really fell completely flat. But the story itself is a lot of fun. There's a lot of black humor. Now Finn is a character who was dropped on his head as a baby. It turns out he's probably the most unluckiest boy that you can imagine. Yeah, kind of loses a toe at school. All sorts of bad shit happens to him. For no reason whatsoever. It's just unlucky. And then as a teen, I think he's 18 or 19, he happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And yeah, something dreadful happens to him. There's a lot of black humor and just warning a little bit of torture. He gets sort of mistaken identity. This is the non-spoiler review, I'm not going to say anything more. But I thought it was a lot of fun, up until the ending, where I just wanted King to finish off the story a little bit stronger than he did. But yeah, that is Finn. My 8th favourite story is The Turbulence Expert. And yeah, this was a very interesting one. I love the concept. And in a kind of it's a bit of a stretch. It just reminded me of The Institute. And it's about this man. He's got a job with this organisation. He kind of doesn't enjoy his job anymore. His job is to fly planes. And all I can say about it is that, ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a little bit of turbulence. Please fasten your seatbelts and remain in your seats until we tell you there's no longer turbulence. But anyway, yeah, I used to fly a lot. I used to travel a lot. And even in America, actually in America, I think it was the worst. I went on a trip with my family in a small aeroplane, and basically the turbulence was so bad that the baggage just fell to the floor, and we were jumping up like some of those roller coasters. And I nearly crap myself, sorry. I'm terrified. I'm not exactly scared of flying, but sometimes on long trips when I was younger, kind of from South Africa to London, I kind of kept questioning, I'm in a little tin can, okay, it's more than that, flying so high up above the earth, what's holding me up there? And this this little story kind of explores that a little bit, and I found it very enjoyable. I wish it had been longer. I think it would make a good novella, maybe not a novel, but a novella. And then I think it would have been a lot better, a lot higher up for me. But yeah, that is The Turbulence Expert. In 7th place we have On Sliding Road. Now this was a fun one, and I think Stephen King had a hell of a time writing the story. If you know, you know. And it's about a batshit crazy grandpa. He's also very foul-mouthed, only the kids love him, and his family. And they're travelling to visit the grandpa's sister, who's dying in Maine, I think it is. And they decide to take a shortcut, which is not a good idea. Things go very bad for them. This is kind of a dark story, kind of fun, and also takes a look at family dynamics. Yeah, it's just a really fun one. And I know it's kind of high up on some people's ratings, but I enjoyed it, and the grandpa was awesome. And yeah, don't mess with the elderly. They know more than you. Next up we got The Fifth Step. Now, this started out kind of ordinary, didn't know where it was going, by an elderly man, and he just wants to be left alone, and he sits down in the park, got his newspaper, doesn't want to talk to people, you know, like when you're older like us as well, you know, you don't really always want to talk to people, just want to be left on your own. And this guy is a recovering alcoholic, sits next to him, and wants to talk to him because it's part of the steps to his recovery. That's all I'm going to say. All I can say, yeah, is that it is a kick in the guts. The ending, I did not see coming. It's chilling. It's freaking a kick in the guts. Like, what the hell just happened? And I really like that. And it kind of reminded me some of old Stephen King. But yeah, just really enjoyed this story. And that is The Fifth Step. Okay, the next 5 stories are definitely entering 5-star territory for me. All wonderful storytelling, just amazing stories with amazing characters, and yeah, this kind of made the collection for me. And first up we have Two Talented Bastards. Bastards? Not sure. Spelled B-A-S-T-I-D-S, probably bastards. But anyway, they just start off as just 2 normal men living their lives, and they're best friends, and they go on hunting trips regularly and that sort of stuff, bonding together. And they go on a hunting trip that changes them. They come out and their lives change. The one becomes an incredibly famous, successful author, and the one becomes an incredibly famous, successful painter. So their talent is just unearthed immediately. And this story explores talent and where it comes from, and where did it come from in the case of these 2 men. And I'm not going to tell you more because you need to read the story, but yeah, it's gorgeously told, not horror really at all, and I think it's a story that opens the whole collection. You know, I kind of thought when I read this, okay, it's a brilliant story, but where's the horror? But yeah, that's Two Talented Bastards. Okay, in 4th position is The Answer Man. Now, the more I think about it, could have been higher, because it's kind of one of those stories that stick with you. Yeah, kind of stays in your head, and it's looking at life and decisions we make in life, and you know, kind of consequences of those decisions. And is it better to know what's going to happen, or parts of what's going to happen in the future, or just leave it a mystery? Yeah, it's about a man, and at 3 points in his life he meets this mysterious creature called the Answer Man, who has to answer questions truthfully about what's going to happen. But you only have a limited time and a limited amount of questions you can ask, so don't waste them. And yeah, this is a story that tugged at me, because I can kind of relate. I think my wife can kind of relate as well. You know, you make decisions in life where are you going to go left or are you going to go right? And maybe left doesn't, you know, doesn't work out the way you feel it should. But in this book, the story is also about hope. And even tragedy sometimes, or things that don't go wrong, it's still a life worth living. And it's maybe Stephen King looking back on his life, older man now, and thinking about decisions that he's made and where his life's gone. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the themes of these stories are old age, and it makes sense. You know, Stephen King's in his 70s. But this is a powerful story. It's moving. It's so well written. And I know it's a lot of people's number one, from what I've heard, except for another one that's even more popular. But yeah, this is 5 stars for me. And I loved it. And it made me think about my life as well. And also, it makes you think about that sometimes as tragic as your life is, or as difficult as your life is, there's always other people who are struggling more, or having more difficulty in their lives. And I think it's better to just live with as much grace as possible and accept what life throws at you. So yeah, I highly recommend the story. I don't know why it's high on my list, but it's just not. Maybe to look at it again. But that is The Answer Man. Okay, in third position we have Rattlesnakes. Now this is definitely the most dark, disturbing, kind of a horrifying ghost tale, haunting in this whole collection. It gets very dark and kind of supernatural, and was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. But I warn you, please, do not, if you plan to read Cujo, do not read the story first. You are going to spoil Cujo. You're going to absolutely spoil the ending to Cujo, so don't read it. Okay, so what's it about? It's about a sad man who basically rents, or is living in his friend's kind of estate in the Florida place, I don't know, the ocean in Florida. And yeah, he meets his neighbor. He's kind of comes across this batshit crazy old lady, lost her marbles, because every night she walks around an empty pram, yeah, and talking to the empty pram. And I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's very creepy, and yeah, it's one of my favorites because of the haunting factor. It's a ghost story, and it gets very, very dark. The rattlesnakes and the hauntings, and I'm not going to say anything else. Just read the frickin' story. That is Rattlesnakes. Okay, for those of you that have been following and that have read the book, you're going to be kind of surprised at this. Because you're going to all be saying, yeah, I know what his number one is. I know what number one is. This is everyone's number one. No. This is my number 2, and I'm going to give my reasons for it. And this is number 2. Danny Kuchlin's, don't even know how to pronounce that, Bad Dream. Let me just tell you, this is a freaking magnificent story. 5 stars all the way. One of the best things he's ever written. And it's about a normal man. Well, he's a recovering alcoholic, but he's trying to live a normal life. And, you know, he has bad dreams, and he's just trying to live his life. I think he's a school janitor, I can't remember. Sort of works at a school. And then one night he has a freaking awful, terrible dream. And when he has bad dreams, he can normally shake them out, right? This time, no. The next morning, it's still so clear. In his mind, he remembers every single thing about this dream. And the dream was about finding a dead body. And the actual place where the dead body is. Every single detail is still there. And he can't help himself. He has to find if this place is real, and he has to go there. And he does. And he finds the dead body, just like it was in his dreams. Kind of like psychic flash. And I'm not going to tell you too much more, except he basically tries to do an anonymous phone call to the police. No good deed goes unpunished. And his life is changed completely and utterly from that moment on. It's a long story. It's a novella, I think. I think it's a novella length. Yeah, not sure. But it is freaking brilliant. So well paced, so well written, so suspenseful, and a lot, if you've read The Outsider, a little bit like that as well. But just so much fun. You know, this belongs in probably my top 5, maybe 10, no, my top 10 Stephen King novellas or short stories of all time. It's just freaking brilliant. So what could possibly top that? At number 1 we have, yeah, The Dreamers. Now I found this incredibly dark and disturbingly, magically awesome. There's some not graphic, but horror imagery. But that's not the only reason it's at number 1. It's at number 1 because I'm kind of into dreams and the interpretation of dreams. One of my majors beside English, I had 3 majors: English, history and appreciation of music, believe it or not, considering I like rock, and psychology. And I came very close, instead of going into teaching, came very close into studying honours and masters in psychology. And one of the things I loved is interpretation of dreams. You know, Sigmund Freud, and that dreams have meanings and can it tell you something about your lives, you know, kind of what's behind dreams. And okay, this story doesn't go into a hell of a lot of detail with that, doesn't, but stories with dreams in them, dreamers, and it just gets me. So this is a Vietnam vet, and he's a stenographer or something, write down notes very quickly, and he gets a job at the scientist's place, and he's well off, the scientist, and he's doing experiments. He's taking kind of people, paying them, giving them a very mild dose of a drug to go under, and then making them dream. But this is not about interpreting. This is not about the actual dream. It gets Lovecraftian, and it gets dark for me anyway. I really found the whole concept freaking terrifying, and I'm not going to go into it any more than that. You're going to have to read the story, whether you like it or not, but I just found the whole concept very terrifying. And what happens, yeah, there's some great imagery in the story, and it just packed a punch for me, the biggest punch of all. So I still think about it. And as I say, yeah, gets, if you know Lovecraft, it kind of goes to sort of Lovecraftian places. I really love it. So that is The Dreamers. So there you have it, everyone. That is my ranking of the You Like It Darker stories. So have you read the book? What are your favourites? Let me know down in the space below. But yeah, be respectful, as I said. I'd love to hear from you, have a conversation with you. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe. And until next time, take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.